Today we are discussing an agent-based model for a fisher-directed management system. This model envisions a collaborative resource management framework where fishers collectively own and are responsible for managing fish stocks. Uh, it incorporates mechanisms like fines and social pressures to ensure sustainable practices and like reducing overfishing. So, to start, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Paul Hart. I'm Emeritus Professor at the University of Leicester, where I worked for something like 35 years. And I'm very interested in animal behavior and human behavior and in fisheries.
So, let's begin with the purpose of this model. Um, what's the main goal of this fisher-directed management system model, and how does it aim to address challenges like overfishing and like unsustainable practices in fisheries?
Well, in 2021, I published a paper where I proposed that giving fishermen the ownership of the fishery they were exploiting on the condition that they managed it sustainably would be a better way to manage some fisheries. And I did propose in the paper a few fisheries which might be suitable for this type of management, but clearly no one's going to implement the management method untested. And to test it in reality would be expensive and would be quite tricky in many ways. So my aim with building this model was to try and simulate the system to demonstrate whether or not it would work.
I mean, what were the most difficult parts of developing this model? For example, how did you simulate the dynamics of the fishing fleet or like model the decision-making processes of individual fishers?
Well, I based it on a what's called a pelagic fishery. In other words, vessels which are catching fish which live in the upper layers of the ocean, like mackerel or herring, and these vessels you can catch large quantities of fish in one go using their pelagic trawls. And what I assumed was that the fishermen would most of the time fish close to where they were at the point of at a particular point in time. But some of the time, if they were not being very successful where they were, they might well cast their vision further and maybe move to a new area where they might get a better catch. And this actually simulates the sort of thing that fishermen really do. So if fishermen are at sea and they find that where they are, they're catching rather poor catches, then they'll often move to an area quite a long way from where they are and try there. But of course, that incurs a cost in that you've got to travel there and it costs you something in fuel costs. So in the model, the fishermen actually do look at the potential value of any catch they might take in their immediate surroundings, and they compare that with the potential catch they might take in some distant patches away from where they are. And then they choose to do whichever gives the greatest value. And they evaluate this every day. And they assume that they're going to be fishing at this rate until their hold is full. So essentially, they're trying to optimize the value of their catch over the time it takes to fill their hold.
So, let's explore the findings. What behaviors or trends have emerged from the model simulation? Have you observed any surprising results about how fines or social pressure influence sustainable practices?
I think that when the probability of cheating is fairly low, then they do tend to stay close to the quota, although they do exceed it a bit, but it's not a huge amount. And I think that as a result, it would be if you could implement such a model, such a management system, it would be a successful way for the fishermen to control their fishery. I mean, the what happens is that um, if they decide to cheat, each fisherman has at the start of the run um, a quota of social, what I call social capital. In other words, their sort of their respect within the fleet, if you like. And every time they cheat, then they lose a unit of social capital. And if they don't cheat, they gain a unit of social capital. So if they're bad, they cheat, they lose social respectability. And if they don't cheat, they gain a unit of social respectability. And also, and if their social capital falls below zero, then they're forced into port and have to, or they're rejected from the fleet. They're rejected from the fleet, so they're no longer allowed to fish. And if they don't cheat, then they not only gain a unit of social capital, but also the boundary within which a random number has to be to introduce cheating is increased. So therefore it becomes less likely that they'll cheat next time round. So in other words, they learn that not cheating is a good thing, and they gain from it. I wouldn't say that there were any really outstandingly unexpected results. I think it's all fairly consistent with the way the model has been set up.
So, did you face any particular challenges while making this model available on the ComSys.net platform, especially in terms of ensuring that the model was user friendly and usable for others?
Well, I don't know that I can necessarily answer that because I found it fairly easy to upload the model, and it was all fairly clear as to what you should do. But whether people find it easy to use, I can't say because I haven't had any feedback on that. So I don't know whether anyone has downloaded it and whether anyone has actually tried to use it. I'd be interested to find out whether they have. I mean, I think there is a facility on there that tells you whether it's been downloaded. Is it not true?
Yeah, you can see the number of downloads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I haven't looked at recently, I have to say.
So what about the preparing the documentation or or audit protocol? What about them?
Well, I've written a manuscript describing the model and the outcome of testing it. And to do that, I also have to produce a so-called odd protocol, where you describe the model in huge detail. Well, I had to do that, and I've attached that as in the information on the NetLogo interface. So it's well documented, I would say, and it should be fairly clear to people as to how the model has been constructed and what it's trying to do.
Looking to the future, are there plans to to expand the model and maybe adapt it to difficult ecological or cultural contexts?
Um, well, one thing I have done is I have a different version of the model which simulates what I would call top-down management, which is the common form of fisheries management that you see in most fisheries, where you have some authority like a government agency who impose limits on the fishery, and the fishermen have to abide by these rules, and if they don't, then they are punished in some way. They either get fined or what have you. So I have actually got a version of the model which um, simulates that situation to compare with my other model. And the two actually could be combined. So I think I might produce a version which has both versions. So you could switch between the two using a switch on the interface. And I could also, I think in the future, I might start to try and introduce some sort of links between fishermen. So you might, for example, get some fishermen who belong to the same company who would interact with each other when they were at sea. So they might pass information about catches and locations of good catches. And that could be simulated quite usefully, and I think would enrich the model.
So thank you for this discussion and sharing your insights into this model.
Well, it's a pleasure.